Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we pull out that weird third-party controller so we can both play together. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ehlers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how's it going?
It's going great. Patrick, I feel like I owe you and the listeners an update on the
I was hoping that was going to be apology, but sure, I'll take we'll take an update on whatever you want to update us on.
An update on the motion sensor hand soap dispenser that I bought for my husband and I's bathroom a few months ago. I know people have been on pins and needles as to how that's going.
What was the outstanding question about it?
Is it good?
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
I think that was the outstanding question. So I bought that, and at the same time, I bought two enormous things of scentless hand soap.
Yes.
We still have not gone through a single one of the enormous things of hand soap, so that should last us for the rest of our lives. The motion sensor thing, we've kind of half given up on it.
Whoa.
It stopped working right outside of the 90-day warranty window.
So it's never getting repaired.
Yeah. And it doesn't really sense motion that well anymore, so it'll sometimes work and sometimes not work, but we're not willing to fully give up on it. So what we've done is we've just put a regular soap dispenser next to it. So now we just have two soap dispensers, one that 90% of the time doesn't work, and then just a regular one that we continue to use like normal because we need hand soap. But for some reason we are not willing to make that leap to fully give up on the motion sensing,
even though it's never going to be repaired,
and will at best continue to work 10% of the time.
It's battery operated, obviously, right?
It is rechargeable battery operated.
Oh,
I know.
So you have to plug it in.
You have to plug it in.
USB-C or micro USB?
Micro USB.
That's
which
a
it
pain.
comes with.
Oh, okay, all right, but still, I gotta plug in the soap dispenser. What is that?
So if anybody was waiting for my buy or don't buy recommendation on this soap dispenser, the answer is don't buy.
Well, it also has the little snitch countdown timer where there are little dots that go through and demonstrate the 30 seconds or whatever it is that you're supposed to be washing your hands.
Yeah, that's right. Only 20.
Only 20, sure. But it feels like an eternity as you're watching those little dots tick away.
Well, the whole thing can be connected to Alexa.
Okay.
Which I don't know who benefits from that.
What information can it possibly give you?
I have no idea.
And what commands can you issue it?
Yeah, it's a great question.
Maybe if you did connect it to Alexa, that would fix it. Maybe it's just missing that one piece.
Maybe it's just mad at me.
Is the piece that you're missing my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch? It might be. So you got to get on our Sonic Forces borrowing program waiting list. I just called it a waiting list. I've never done that before. It's a list that you get on. All you got to do is email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com and give us a mailing address so we can send you my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch. You play it for as long as you like. You send it back. I pay for postage both ways. There may be a copy of Untitled Goose Game inside a Sonic Forces box. That's fine. That's just part of what happens. Either way, the rules are the same.
And this is not a leading question one way or the other.
Yes.
Is the reason the Untitled Goose Game cart is inside of the Sonic Forces box is just to add that extra layer of surprise?
Yes, it is. There is a visual difference between the two boxes, and I know what it is, but I am not going to reveal that information here.
No, I mean, look, I don't want to mess with a perfect program.
Thank you.
But maybe we need
This is the apology?
Maybe we need a third Sonic Forces box in which we put those like spring-loaded snakes. So
Right,
when
right.
somebody opens it, it's a real surprise. There's no game
Right, whatsoever.
You just have to collect the snakes,
I mean, the
compress them back down,
yeah,
put
and
it
then
back in, and then
mail
mail
them
it
back.
back.
The thing is, the goose is already the troll option. Like that's already what that is.
Right.
Although, if you're getting it right, you're getting Sonic Forces, which in itself is a little bit of a troll. The whole program is a troll, which is part of why it's perfect.
Anyways, definitely get on the list.
Get on the list.
Yeah. Another thing you can do is you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or really anywhere that you get your podcast. We appreciate it so much. It helps people find the show. It helps Patrick and I feel good about ourselves because we love reading your reviews. If you leave us a review on the US Apple Podcast Store, we can see it and we will give you a shout out on the show. But of course, if you leave us a review anywhere else, we don't appreciate it any less. We just can't see it. So we still want to give you a shout out. Hit us up on Twitter, send us an email, let us know that you left us a review so we can thank you on the show.
And while you are sending us an email or hitting us up on Twitter, why not request an invite to our Discord, which has turned into a really great place to hang out and talk about Nintendo stuff, what we've been playing, things that we're excited about, things we see in the news Nintendo-wise, basically everything that we cover on this show, but in like an interactive kind of way. I'm not saying the Discord is better than the show. It's maybe a wash. Like they're maybe like equal at this point, but get in there. It's a great time. We would love to have you there. It's invite only. So it's just fans of the show. There's no like weirdos lurking around there. It's just a fun time. All right, Mark, are you ready to get into our topic?
Yeah, let's do it.
We got an email from Jason. Jason writes, "Hey NCS, since Portal 2 is on Switch and has great co-op, what's a Nintendo franchise you'd like to see add something like this to their games? I'd like to have Zelda be playable and solve two-player problems with Link in Breath of the Wild 2. What are your thoughts? Love what y'all are doing." Jason, this is what we're talking about all episode today.
Yeah, thank you so much for the email and for the idea.
Yes, that's right. Thank you for both of these things. Because it is true that a co-op feature in a game makes it it makes it valuable in a wholly like separate kind of way, right? I like playing games by myself. That is something that I like to do, but I also like to play them socially. But I feel like I don't always have the option to, like, Breath of the Wild is a great example of like a game that I love. There's really no option to play that with people.
Yeah, and I feel like many games are made better by playing them socially. I mean, you've talked about playing Twilight Princess, is that right? The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. Basically a single-player game, but with
people in the room.
Yeah, and that enhanced the experience. And
yeah, that was also my experience of Dead Rising on the Xbox 360.
Yeah, and so, I don't think that's true for every game and every experience. But I do think in general games are more fun when they're social. And I think Nintendo, in what we're going to be talking about today, it doesn't necessarily have to be couch co-op. But I feel like Nintendo has kind of been like the king of couch co-op for a long time. Maybe because they were a little bit behind the curve on online. But the benefit of that has been that couch co-op has been such a big part of their library.
Right. Well, and like, I always think about like the sort of like formative games, for both of us, and for you specifically, Kirby's Kirby Superstar is like an inherently co-op game.
Totally.
You can play it by yourself, but just like adding the second player in there adds so much like dimensionality to the game, and mostly just gives two people a fun thing to experience together.
Yeah, I mean, even going back to Super Mario Brothers 3 and the fact that you could have a Mario and a Luigi character and you were taking turns, going through the same map, and it had a kind of a competitive edge, because you could always go into that.
You could take the Toad House from your friend.
You could take the Toad House. You could launch somebody into a Super Mario or a Mario Brothers type game.
Right.
Use that to steal their power-up cards and to reverse like whose turn it actually was.
Right.
So it was like a really fun mix of co-op and like competition.
But one of the things that I do think that is missing from a lot of the like NES era like co-op is, and even Super NES is a lot of these simultaneous co-op.
For sure.
Because in the Super Mario Brothers games, in the Donkey Kong Country games, which seems like it would be a no-brainer for simultaneous two-player, like you still have to trade off like I control Donkey, you control Diddy, but like one of us
Never
is in
at
the
the same
lead, never
time.
at the same time.
Mhm.
And I think like that's a real like kind of failing there. But like, yeah, definitely Nintendo is like the sort of the forebearer of all of this, right? And like you can see that in the design of the original Famicom with the two controllers built into it, right? You couldn't even plug these controllers in; they were just always in. The Game Boy launched with a little with the link cable so that you could play these games together in the same space. Nintendo 64, the first system to have 4 controller ports on it. Like Nintendo's been thinking about how do we get as many people around one machine playing all at once since the beginning, and they've been doing it more aggressively than like anyone else.
And I like that, I don't know if it was actually tied to the pandemic or not, but it feels to me like once the pandemic hit, Nintendo kind of realized, oh,
Oh, we need to get online.
we need to get online into a lot more of this stuff, like Mario Party and things like that didn't have it previously.
Yes.
But I hope that as they move more aggressively into that space, that they will continue to, have couch co-op options.
I mean, I think what they truly need, and you see it in something like Super Mario 3D World, the re-release on Switch, that it has all that couch co-op, but you can take that exact same experience online, and like that is truly what you need for a Nintendo game to work is just take the couch co-op experience and put it online.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want.
Yeah, that is like 100% what I want. I had a nice experience this weekend playing with friends and with Sarah. We played Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Shredder's Revenge, and we played some Mario Kart too, which was like, great. Like the 4 of us racing against each other and 8 computer players, and that was super fun. There's no real co-op option there, but like just the opportunity to play all together is a very fun time. I will also note that Nintendo remains, well, we have gone through and like come up with franchises and game styles that we would game, and specific titles probably too, that we would like to see have co-op in them. Nintendo just has been good about this lately. Like there was a second where I was like, oh, Pikmin, that'd be good, and I was like, oh no, Pikmin 3 had co-op.
Yeah, I was going through to kind of like generate ideas for my list. I was going through my Switch library, including the libraries in the Nintendo 64 Switch Online, the Super Nintendo Switch Online, and going through it, like there are a ton of titles in there that already have co-op.
Yeah. So we have each come up with a couple different examples of games that we would like to have co-op in them. We'll discuss what that would look like. Mark, would you like to go first or should I?
I'll go first. And, Jason had this in his email, but I do want to just like speak on it for a moment because I think it is such a great idea, or would be so much fun to have it in a Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild type game. Even if it's not part of like the main like canon story, but what is like Portal 2, where it just has its own co-op mode. I think you could, with the physics and the puzzle solving in that game.
It's a canon story in Portal 2, but
and like
it's a different story, but yes.
In the shrines, like just the ability to do those shrine puzzles that were designed for like 2 people, just seems like it would be so much fun.
Well, and like thinking about one person using magnesis and another person using like cryonis at the same time to like you're lifting up a pillar of ice one place so that you can move something else with a magnet, like that would be very cool to have to use those powers in sync with each other.
Maybe that's what this new Star Tropics game should be.
I mean, don't step on stay off my side of the street.
Okay, fair.
But yeah, it's I mean, the obvious challenge with something like Breath of the Wild is the open world nature of it, right? And so it's like, is that something where you would want to be, that we would both be like on one person is like in charge and the other person has to like be within a certain distance of them, or are we both just opposite corners of the world doing whatever we want at the same time.
See, that's why I feel like it would need to be a separate mode
Sure.
that is like specifically for co-op. I believe that there's a world where Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild co-op, like open world, all of it could
Yeah.
exist. I personally have trouble like seeing, like you're saying, like how all of that would work. But I think the core like puzzle solving and physics mechanics are so good that I would want to be able to just experience that part of it with a friend.
Yeah, that it would have to be like smaller areas, like you say, like shrines, or like the dungeons we never got, or something. That
Yeah,
would
or
be
I
very
mean,
cool.
even like the man, I'm blanking on what they're called. Not Great Beasts, but the
Divine Beasts.
the Divine Beasts. Like even like those in co-op, they just but I would be great. I think it just needs to be those like smaller, discrete experiences.
Yeah, it would also be cool if they were like challenges that you could take on with one of the champions as your second player.
Yes.
That'd
oh my
be
gosh,
so
that'd
cool.
be so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it should be. And like I know that Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, has first of all the ability for co-op, and that would also be Link and the champions working together. That's not what I want. I want puzzle solving and I want exploration,
Yeah.
and combat in there too, but not like, the 1 versus 1,000 Muso. This is a great pull. It's obviously perfect. And that would be super fun. Let's now move over to my side of the street and Star Tropics. The description that I wrote here in my notes is, hey, come on, of course. This isn't. I don't want a new Star Tropics or like a new game style Star Tropics. I want a classic 8-bit. You're jumping on little tiles to solve puzzles. You're fighting a room full of, slugs or mummies or whatever. And there are just two of you. Because the game is Star Tropics is a game that I love. It is too hard. Frequently the puzzle solving is a little bit too mind bendy or a little bit too, how was I supposed to know that that's what I'm supposed to do? And there are frequently too many enemies that like swarm you. But if you can just have two guys on screen, just like wailing away on them, I think it'd be really fun. I think it'd be really cool. I think you'd, just by virtue of the fact that there are two of you, you'd be jumping on more of the tiles to trigger like the hidden buttons and all that. Just regular old Star Tropics, 2 players.
I mean, hard to argue with that.
Yeah. I mean, and that it is a simple. I feel like we've done simple, obvious pitches that are right. And I think from there we can get a little bit crazier.
I think so too. Yeah, I would say having Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, I felt like it's such a good idea. It was almost like a gimme.
Yes, that's right.
And so I guess I'll move on to my next pick.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I would like to see a co-op Ring Fit adventure.
Oh, now that's cool.
So I wonder if it could work a little bit like the online in like Bloodborne works, where basically I played Bloodborne with a friend where we were basically on our PS4s playing Bloodborne and just connected by chat, and we were maybe in like similar areas, but we were having different experiences, finding different things and everything, but we would continually come together to take on bosses. Like he would summon me into his game or I would summon him into my game, and then we would wail on bosses together. And I feel like that sort of formula would be perfect for Ring Fit Adventure, where like you could, I guess, do co-op, courses in Ring Fit Adventure, but it feels so much like it's all about like a specific person's pace.
Yeah.
That I think like that piece of it would be challenging, but to be able to like come together and wail on Drago, like.
I mean, honestly, the workout buddy component of this is so good, right? Even if it's just like once a week, you and your workout buddy are teaming up to like do a boss fight together or something like that, that you have to keep up with your exercises. So you're fit enough to do it with your friend, but also that your level is high enough so that you're like pulling your own weight.
Contribute.
Yeah.
Because I'm not really motivated.
That's so good, Mark.
I'm not really motivated by competition.
Yeah.
And, with like Apple Fitness and like that sort of thing, that's kind of a lot of it is like, oh, share your
Right.
share
Yeah.
your status with your friend and, like have a competition and see who's getting the most, calories burned or whatever in a day. That does not motivate me in the slightest. But I know that it motivates some people. So having that aspect of it, I think, is important. But to me, the part that would be really fun is being able, like you said, to come together and, both contribute to these boss battles.
Yeah, I mean, like nothing solidifies a like run routine like having someone that you know is just gonna be waiting for you on the corner in the morning. That
Yeah.
like you're going for a run with that person. If that is also true of Ring Fit Adventure, that's Ring Fit Adventure 2 needs this mode.
I also think it would, just in general, being able to use 2 ring cons
Yeah,
in the same room at the same time, so like 2 people could be doing a workout together if they wanted to.
yeah.
That feels like a feature that would be great in a theoretical Ring Fit Adventure 2.
Yeah. Well, and also this is one that I think that would also need to be online
For
available
sure,
as well.
100%, yeah.
One of the great things about Ring Fit Adventure is that you get to do these kind of exercises without leaving your home. But yeah, I mean, especially like if Sarah and I were both like doing that, yeah, that'd be wonderful.
Because I love the idea that like in a boss battle, like somebody, their strength is like core strength or yoga or something. So they're like
Right.
packing in those skills where somebody else is like killing the squats and,
Yeah.
that other leg exercises. And so you could just have like your different
Right.
workout styles, but still be teaming up at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, that's that's wonderful. And also then you could like share potions and like use items on each other and stuff like that. Like, yeah, that'd be so good. I love that. Mark, I mentioned Mario Kart earlier, and I'm gonna do it again because I'd like to see a co-op mode in Mario Kart that is a little bit more of because like you can do team races, right, where you're both on the same team, so that's kind of co-op. And Double Dash has the like 2 players on one cart, and that's co-op. But I'm also kind of like, what's the point of this? I never wrap my head around that. But I'd like to see a version of Mario Kart where one racer is where the two players, obviously. The first player is in a regular race, a regular Mario Kart race, and the second player is their like pit crew, basically, but in a cart, and they're doing like a battle mode style thing. And in like the battle mode, you are trying to get like the items that you can collect there are all things that the racer then uses to better themselves in the race, and all of the items that the racer can collect are weapons that the pit crew can use to defend itself in the battle mode.
I love this so much. It feels very Mad Max to me, where you have this like death machine that
Yes.
you're driving around, and there are like parts and pieces
Yes.
that you're picking up and like
Teleporting them back, yeah.
and like modifying your like war machine,
Yes.
as you're driving around, so that way you can do more damage. Yeah, I think that could be a lot of fun.
I think it could be fun. I think it's a good way to have like 2 players working together. I think it's also a fun way to add like racing stakes to battle mode. Because like even with the improved battle mode of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I'm not like drawn to actually doing it. But if I were doing like a little mini version of that to help Sarah race or to help you race or whatever, I could absolutely do that. That'd be a ton of fun.
Yeah, that's another thing I really like about that is I feel like it pays tribute to a lot of the co-op that we see in Nintendo's games, where it's not 2 players doing the same exact thing.
Yeah.
It's 1 player assisting another, whether that's in Super Mario Galaxy and the second player collecting star
collecting
bits.
star bits.
I'm playing Bowser's Fury, and you can play that in co-op and have somebody control Bowser Jr., who has a different moveset and
I forgot
different
about
benefits.
Bowser Jr., yeah.
Like he can use his paintbrush to open up secrets on like around the world. And so I like this idea because maybe karting is not your thing, maybe like battle mode is not your thing, but it would be fun to just sit next to somebody and not have that like high pressure to perform, but just
Yeah.
kind of like be able to contribute in your own way.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. So again, I know that you can sort of fake a co-op in Mario Kart currently by doing teams and being like the only. But I think you have to do like split teams down the middle, right? There's no like
Yeah, I think so.
I don't
think
think you
that's
can
right.
do 2 versus 10. So yeah, there's a Mario Kart and the pit crew.
My next pick is Pokemon Snap. So the way I'm envisioning this is fairly straightforward. So except instead of being on rails, you have somebody who is driving your like safari vehicle
Oh, this is so good.
around an open world, and then another person on the back who's like snapping photos. But I think that they would like periodically switch. So you wouldn't always be one or the other.
Yes.
There would be moments where, like the player who's taking photos now has to become the player that's driving. And then so it's about like teamwork and getting this perfect picture and like making sure you're in the right location and figuring out like, because in my mind it wouldn't be on rails anymore, it would be more open world. So it's like, well, how do we get over there to
Right,
be able to
right.
like take the picture from this angle or something like that?
Oh, that's so good. Oh, and I wonder like if there's some. I mean, it's sort of negated by the fact that like you can always get on communication somehow. But like if it was a not local, like a non-couch co-op game, so that you weren't able really to.
Oh, like a journey type thing?
Yeah, so you weren't able to communicate like, oh no, I got the shot of that, whatever. We don't have to worry about it. So that like you just have to kind of like hope that you're like getting within like within the right range of the player taking the pictures, and then like when you switch that they're getting like within the right range too.
Yeah, and maybe both players have like similar but separate goals. Like if you're the driver,
Yes.
like you have this thing you're trying to achieve, like cross the river 8 times, and then
Sure,
the
yeah.
photographer, is like trying to get the perfect shot at the same time.
Yeah. I really like the idea of like slightly different goals, and then like, or that like only the driver only knows about the driver goals and the photographer only knows about the
Right,
photographer
yeah,
goals.
exactly.
And so they'll be in conflict with each other, but then they both get rewarded for the other one doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I like also just adding the openness to that. Pokemon Snap makes a lot of sense, partially because it's so on rails and you can just do like the individual moments are so scripted to like time and the time that you're there. But hey, we've seen in like Pokemon Legends like that they can do where you just stumble upon some Psyducks taking a bath in the river. You can do that in an open space. It doesn't have to all be on rails.
Yeah, it makes sense that when it's a single player game that it's on rails, because trying to like control the vehicle
Right,
and
a
also
nightmare,
like shoot at
yes.
the same time doesn't seem like it'd be that fun. But if you have a second player there, it opens up a lot of possibilities.
How fast do you think you can drive that Jeep if you're the driver character?
Oh, I think you are cruising. I think the person, especially if it's like a journey type, not being able to talk,
Right.
type, there's plenty of opportunity for trolling.
I like that. We need more griefing in Pokemon games. All right, my next pitch is Tetris 99. 2 versus 99, right? Or 2 versus 98, I guess. I know I'm a broken record and that I love Tetris 99 more than basically anything else on this planet, but I started off the episode talking about Star Tropics, so what do you want from me? I only have so many things I can talk about. But like, I love just this sort of basic idea that you would both have Tetris boards going at the same time, and then you wouldn't be sending lines to each other, right? You'd be sending your lines to other players, and you would obviously have a mode where like you could choose to be targeting the same player together, but also have a targeting mode where you can defend the other player. So like if I don't have any damage coming at me, but the other player does, and I want to use some of my lines to like defend their stuff, I think that would be great. I think it'd be cool if there's a way to swap stored pieces. So it's like, oh, you really need the eyepiece to land it. Like, I have one of those. Here you go. I just think there's so much in there like that. Doing cooperative Tetris, it feels so close to achievable.
I love this so much because I think Tetris, especially Tetris 99, is so high pressure and like
Yes.
twitch reflexes that adding a second person
Chaos,
into that
yes.
would be like chaos, but like fun chaos in the way that Overcooked is. I also love this idea as somebody who is not as good at Tetris 99 that I could team up with somebody like you and that you could basically carry me through some of these matches, because I will add, I know that like we wouldn't be attacking each other with lines, but I think it would be really cool if like I'm building, my like
Right.
grid is building and I need help, that I could just like send 5 lines to you
Oh, sure.
to like
For
your
me to clear
board
them.
for
Yeah.
you to like just take on.
Yeah, yeah.
Basically.
No, I mean that would be great. It would also be great if you're getting attacked and we can see those lines incoming, and I move to defend and I start clearing my own lines that then knock your attacks out. Like,
Yeah,
I think it'd be really cool. It would obviously be like if one of you fails, you both fail. Like you
Totally.
both get knocked out at the same time. Also, I'm going to revise it one more time. It would be 2 versus 97 is what is what it would actually be. And I know that that's what it is. I'm just messing it up. That's all.
Yeah, I love that so much. My next pitch is one that I think I don't 100% know the mechanics of it,
Yeah.
but I really want it to work.
Yeah.
And that is Famicom Detective Club.
Okay, this crossed my mind as well, and I was like, I don't know
I
what
don't
this
know
is.
exactly
I don't know what it is.
So here's the pitch that I got to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so I don't think it is 100% cooperative. Maybe it's a little bit more like the Ring Fit Adventure model. But I think it would be so cool if you and I were playing Famicom Detective Club together, and when there are like branching paths in the story, it's like, oh, you go take one as one character, I will go pursue this other route as
Yes.
like this other character, and then there will be a moment where they both converge again, and we need information from both of us in order to advance.
Yes. Yeah, no, I think that's
So
I think that's very good.
So I don't know that it would be like couch co-op. It might be online, so that way we can experience it asynchronously, but then when we're ready to like converge again, we both get together.
Now, is one of us controlling the detective that is like the main character of the first 2 games, and the other one is controlling Ayumi? Ayumi.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty good because like they can both like get access to different spaces, right? Like,
Right.
she's younger, she's a student, she's a woman. He's a little bit older. He's still pretty young. Is a man. They have access to different spaces, and so they're both like investigating a crime together.
Different personalities, right?
Totally.
Yeah,
Yes.
so like definitely able to do things new. I just think it would be interesting if I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to that restaurant to talk to that person, and I realize, oh, like I'm not gonna be able to get past this person because our personalities don't mesh. But Patrick, your
Right.
character might be able to go do that. I don't necessarily know how to make it work from like
Yeah.
a gameplay perspective, other than
Like,
it is,
what am
like,
I doing while you're doing that? Am I doing like a different
I think
menu
you
based
are
thing?
like I
Yeah.
think you are trying to get information from somebody else, and maybe there's like a time element to it
Yeah.
that requires it to be like, well, we don't have the option to do one or the other, so we have to split up and
Right. We only have
go our separate paths.
We only have 10 minutes, and then we have to meet back up. I wonder if there could also be like a little bit of a competitive angle to it too, where when they meet back up, you get to decide which information to share.
Oh, interesting.
And like at the end of the thing, because Famicom Detective Club doesn't really have there's no fail state really, right? Like there's no
there's just banging your head against the wall.
That's right. Until you select the correct menu item
Yeah.
to move on. But if there was like a part where you have to say who the killer is, and I have information and you have information,
It's like that clue moment.
there's a clue moment, right? When like our goal collectively is to solve it, right? For one of us to solve it. But if I solve it, I get more. I get the bragging rights that I was the one who did it. But no matter what, we don't want to not solve it.
Yes.
I think that would be a very cool.
Ooh, that would be fun.
Ooh, I like this so. I couldn't work this out in my head, but I was like, Famicom Detective Club. How do we do it?
It just seems like it would be a neat to have that sort of like text adventure, mystery solving experience together.
Yeah. Well, have you played any of the the games from the studio that did uh, Until Dawn. Until Dawn is like a cinematic like horror game where it's mostly like storytelling and like you just making choices for the characters. And in recent years they've done these. I forget what they're called. I played one called Little Hope, which was it's like 5 people on a bus, and they're trapped in like a weird town and weird stuff is happening to them, and you hand the controller back and forth to different players being in the lead, and that's obviously like a horror game where you're trying to like survive. But I think you could apply that same formula to, or that same gameplay style to Famicom Detective Club, and instead of trying to like survive something, you're trying to solve a mystery.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah.
I think that's the way to go.
I think that would be very cool.
Also, it'd be neat to see like the huge production values of those games, and they all have like one celebrity in like each one of them, where you're like, oh, that's they spent all their budget on like casting that person. Will Poulter is in Little Hope. Hayden Panettiere is in Until Dawn. They're cool games.
Yeah, taking that energy and mixing it with Famicom Detective Club, that could be very cool.
Be very, very cool. My next pick is I think also maybe a thuddingly obvious one. My first note here is, what's the freaking holdup here? It's Super Mario 64. Super Mario 64 is a game that is begging for modernization as it is. And there already was a sort of modernized version of it on the DS, which included more characters. Ding, 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 ding. You can play as multiple characters, and more stars. So why not let people play Super Mario 64 as not just Mario or just Yoshi or just Luigi or just Wario, but as 2 of those characters at the same time?
So almost like Super Mario 64 mashed up with Super Mario 3D World.
Yeah, I mean, like a little bit, but still maintaining the like wholly open exploration of Super Mario 64. And I'm here. I even mean like just doing Super Mario 64. I don't mean like another game like that. I mean just make it that game. But you know, like because there are character specific stars in the DS version. Let's put those back in so that, like, you know, then now you can go in with Wario and Mario can get the Wario stars, Mario can get the Mario stars, add a couple that, like, 2 characters need to work together to get, and just do that. Just make it Mario 64, but co-op.
Man, that sounds okay, so the structure of Super Mario 64, you jump into a painting and you're choosing like which star you're going after.
Yeah.
Is that like still in your mind? Is that still like the structure?
That's still the structure. And so like you're both running around Peach's castle. Whoever jumps into a painting first decides where you guys are going. And then you select the star and then you're in there together, figuring out where to go next.
And so like, I guess we were talking before about having sort of like a competitive aspect to it. It's the same sort of thing where your goal collectively is still to get the star. It's still to get enough stars to defeat Bowser, like all that kind of stuff. But you could totally be keeping track of who got how many stars and who cleared what level.
Totally, yes.
Yeah, to get for those bragging rights.
I mean, not only would you be keeping track of it, the game would be keeping track of it.
For sure.
And, you know, if Mario collects the star, then, like, Luigi's going to be like, oh, no, you know, like, he wanted that star. And then the next time you go into that painting, Mario's got a little crown on his head, and Luigi can try to knock it off. So it is a little bit like Super Mario 3D World.
That would be really cool. I wonder if there's a mod that does that, because I would love to see it in action.
Yeah, right? I mean, I'm sure like you could do it as like a split screen thing, but also just 2 different people playing on different switches, either locally or you know, on the internet. It just seems like a perfect little experience.
Yeah, that would be really cool. What a fun way to like revisit Mario 64.
And what a great excuse to like give it some new textures and like add a couple polygons here and there and just like clean up the little things about Mario 64 that like haven't aged super well. The camera,
yeah,
you know, and it just really present it, because like that is a game that like is old, right? And like shows its age when it's re-released either on the Nintendo 64 Switch Online or in the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection. just representing it with a fresh coat of paint and using all of that extra content that's in the DS version, which is even more unplayable than like the Nintendo 64 version, right? Like,
Yeah, a D-pad is not the ideal way to control that game.
no, and neither is using the touch screen as like a giant thumbstick. Like that doesn't work either. So this is a twofer. This is one where we are updating a classic game and adding multiplayer.
I love it.
Yeah.
So my final pitch is for Punch-Out. And I think
Left glove, right glove.
I think Punch-Out needs it would take a little bit of reinvention. And the way that Punch-Out is in a lot of ways like a rhythm game already. It's all about finding the pattern and repeating that pattern. But I think it goes full hog rhythm game. So I'm thinking like combat or, like fighting, kind of like similar to Cadence of Hyrule or something, where there's like a song with a beat that you have to follow for like each fighter. And so that's what Little Mac is doing. That is what one player is doing. The other player is the coach, whose name I'm blanking on.
Doc? Yeah.
Yeah. So the other player is playing as the coach, and your job is to kind of like act as cheerleader in the corner, fixing up cuts and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm imagining that each person,
Doc Lewis.
Each player has their own kind of like rhythm that they are keeping. That, if you're playing a single player and you're playing as Little Mac and you're fighting, it still sounds really cool. But when you have two people, playing together and they start to harmonize and both people are on the beat, that you start getting like bonuses for that.
Yes.
And, Little Mac just gets more powerful and he gets like special moves and things, like the better that each person is doing.
Yeah. No, I like that a lot. And I also like if there's if like Doc Lewis has like the ability to like change the music or like alter the tracks a little bit so that like you can like cue a chorus early or something like that when you've got like the star meter or something, like that would be cool, like just as a fun way to take the rhythm game and like strategify it a little bit.
Right. Yeah. I think that would get me into a
get you into a Punch-Out game.
Yeah.
I mean, you're almost like rhythm heavening it a little bit, right?
Totally, 100%. Yeah. Or like the mini games that you see in WarioWare. Like it's all kind of like the same sort of thing.
Yeah. That's good. I like that a lot. And I think also would get me into into a Punch-Out game, which I haven't been able really to do. Yeah, I for whatever reason, having because you're right that they are like recognize the pattern, execute on it. If I just have like a backing track to that,
yeah, if you had some rockin' tunes that you were like doing it in time, that seems like that would improve the experience for me.
And Survivor writes all the songs for it.
I'm not complaining.
Neither am I. Okay, I have one more, and then I have like another sort of idea that I want to talk about.
Okay.
Metroid, either Samus Returns or Dread style, right? Like in the Mercury Steam style of Metroid game. Plop together on some planet where you're hunting Metroids. You can either choose to tackle them together or split up because you have like a limited amount of time in like certain areas where it's like you go east, I'll go west. Let's take these Metroids out.
I'm imagining that the like story that facilitates this is Samus lands on some planet that phases her in two.
Absolutely. Look, Samus has been split in two so many times, right? Like, what is it this time? Is it an X-Parasite version of her? Is it like a Dark Dimension version of Samus? It doesn't matter. She lands on planet 2 of you is the name of the planet, and she turns into 2 of herself, and then she's got to run around and kill all the Metroids, which there are twice as many of as there used to be.
Twice as many. Yep.
Like, it's just something that happens when you go into the atmosphere is it duplicates everything. But like, I like the idea that some of the power-ups would like affect both players. Some would be just the person who collects it. Maybe you can like pass them back and forth when you're together or at like certain hubs where you can like send one power-up to the other person. Maybe the kind of thing where like one player has to turn on electricity to one area that the other player like runs around in, or like shut down electricity so you can move around in it freely.
It's like Maniac Mansion, the Metroid
just
game.
like Maniac Mansion. Yeah, I mean that's it. I enjoyed Metroid Dread so much, and I know that one of the main flavors of Metroid that like make that dish so enjoyable is isolation, right? But Metroid Dread has this like weird kind of habit of making the robot Adam voice, which isn't actually Adam, but whatever, talk to you kind of a lot, right? So you never really get to that like feeling of total isolation in that game. So let's just lean into it. You're no longer isolated.
Yeah, I feel like I 100% agree that like the atmosphere and that sense of isolation is a big part of what makes Metroid. But I guess I feel like you could still have that atmosphere.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, well, you just get
have,
to the
like,
points
two people.
where your characters get separated.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then you are like you've maybe at that point gotten used to traveling together, fighting Metroids together, and then it's like, okay, great, it's no problem. We can tag team these things. Oh no, now I have to do it on my own for a little bit before we hook back up together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that'd be super fun. Also, I think that means that you can have like a bigger world for two people to explore together, and it would be neat to have like I've built out a different map than you because I've seen different parts of the world than you.
Yeah.
So like I'm like, oh, I know how to get to that room. I just have to go this way and this way. And you're like, well, wait, that doesn't work for me because I don't have this on my map.
Right.
Would be very cool.
Do you think that it would be this one specifically seems like it would not be like a couch co-op experience, that it would be best be done like online?
Yeah, I mean, I either online or just like separate switches together, right? Like, that is one of the cool things about the Switch is that it has that, like two Game Boys in the same room, two DSs in the same room, sort of ability to it, where you can both be talking. But have separate screens, entirely separate screens, instead of having to do like a split screen or two Samuses on the same screen together. It's just there's a lot of like camera stuff to have to worry about there.
Yeah.
And then the other thought that I had brings me back to Link Between Worlds. Legend of Zelda Link Between Worlds. And obviously they've done the like 3-player co-op of Triforce Heroes. They use that same engine, but it's just like here are 3 links that are all in the same room. And they're not going on like a regular Zelda adventure. They're doing these sort of discrete challenges that are like a little bit puzzle based, mostly combat based, and that game is fun. I've enjoyed every time that I've played it, especially every time I played it with people. But like there is a duality built into Link Between Worlds and Link to the Past of the Dark World and the Light World, Hyrule and Low Rule. And in A Link Between Worlds specifically, we have the Low Rule version of Zelda. We have the Low Rule version of Link. Who can I spoil A Link Between Worlds here?
Warning if you haven't played Link Between Worlds.
Warning if you haven't played Link Between Worlds, skip to the end because I think this is the last game we're going to talk about. But Ravio, the like merchant character that you are interacting with throughout the course of the game, is the sort of disgraced hero of Low Rule. He is the mirror dimension version of Link. But what's stopping these two characters from having parallel adventures in parallel worlds where, and like you see it in these games already, where like you affect something in the dark world, something in the light world changes. Hyrule, Low Rule, same thing. Why can't they just do that? Where like I'm on my adventure in Hyrule and I knock down some tree, and now that tree isn't there in your Low Rule.
That's really interesting because and maybe this is not what you're intending, but to my mind, it's almost like we would still be having like discrete experiences.
Yes.
Where you're playing your adventure in Hyrule, I'm playing my adventure in Low Rule, and we don't necessarily, I don't really know how to describe it other than just like as I'm going through my discrete adventure, our games are linked. And so,
right.
Like I do something and it affects your world and you might be like, whoa, like what just happened?
Right.
And I, would be able to tell you, oh, well, I defeated this dungeon, and
Right,
so this
yes.
happened in my world. How did it affect yours? I have no way of knowing.
Right. Or like I could be like, hey, I'm stuck here. The guy says I need to get to the other side of the river, and you'd be like, oh well, there's a dam in mine that I can destroy and like dry up the river or something. And then it could also be a little bit like your Bloodborne experience, where like maybe there's a way to summon the other character into your game to fight with you, like at like little nexus points, or maybe you have to like visit the other world for whatever reason.
Right.
I just think there are so many opportunities for like, here are two discrete adventures, and also like that's obviously we have all the examples of there's the Twilight realm in Twilight Princess, and then just thinking about the Oracle games, that there's Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages. There is this duality built into like Zelda. Like, why are we not just playing in both these worlds at the same time?
Ah, yes, the duality of Zelda.
Well-
Something for us to all ponder. No, but I completely agree with what you're saying. I think that would be really cool and an interesting kind of like twist on what we think of for co-op games.
Yeah, well, and especially because it leaves room for like asynchronous multiplayer, that like if we wanted to, you could be playing when you have time and I could be playing when I have time, and our worlds are linked, right? So like what happens to your the changes you make to your low rule affect my high rule. And then we can also be playing at the same time. Like, it just seems like it would be the most flexible kind of version of that.
Yeah.
And then also, if you wanted to do the whole thing by yourself, then just switching between Ravio and Link, like, yeah, why not?
Totally.
Let me do it. Let me play this game. Mark, any other thoughts? That was of course my last pitch. But any other thoughts about co-op games and how Nintendo either is or is not fulfilling that for us, that need at the moment?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit up at the top of the episode, but I have always felt that Nintendo does a good job with co-op. I think they are probably like, of the three big publishers, hands down, they are easily the one who invests the most into it, and I think understands the value of having those couch co-op experiences. But I really was, when I went through my Switch library, blown away with how good the co-op support, not just from Nintendo first party, but there's a lot of like indie games and third party games that also like have co-op experiences available. And I think that's so cool. I'm glad that that's something that we haven't lost, because I think it is such a valuable part of gaming.
Well, and is something that is explicitly built into the Switch's design, right? That like out of the box, the thing comes with two controllers. They're sort of by default attached to your Switch, but like from day one, you don't have to buy anything extra. You're playing snipper clips. You set it up on the table, and you both have controllers that are functional enough that you can both play the game together.
Yep.
It's very cool, and I'm glad that is part of Nintendo's DNA, and it's something that I wish I took advantage of more. Right? I think I think of gaming as such a solitary experience, and it is only in the last like couple of years, I think really since the pandemic, that I've gotten back into the idea of like, no, I can be playing these as like things to do with my friends who are not local. Just to spend time together, and we can talk while we're playing, or like fall out of conversation, just have a good time, racing in Mario Kart. Like, it's just you're connecting to people. It's a powerful thing. All right, Mark, let's close this out. Would also love to know if if other people have ideas for co-op that they'd like to see added to Nintendo games. I think we listed a bunch of good ones, but I'm sure we missed a lot of good ideas. So either bring them up in the Discord, or tweet at us, or email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com so we can talk about them on the show. All right, Mark, this, all of it is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and follow us on Apple Podcasts. If you like the episode, you can share it on Facebook or Twitter or any old place where you share stuff. It helps us out tremendously. When you do that, you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at Nin Cart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying thank you for listening.